Sustainability is a critical business strategy that drives efficiency, profitability, and ethical responsibility. We all have heard that before. But that being said, many questions often exist about identifying usable strategies for sustainability efforts and to make it pay off. So, we're going to help you with some of your questions today on this topic. And to do that, I welcome Steve Ashkin, the founder of the Ashkin Group. Steve, it's a pleasure.
The pleasure is mine, Jeff. Thank you for having me.
Usually, Steve, we really dig into sustainability and how important it is. This angle is somewhat unique when you wrote an article for ISSA about tying sustainability goals to compensation packages, sustainability to paychecks. Let's start with building a case for this. Why this topic and why now?
Well, we can have long discussions about why I think sustainability is a very timely issue with new government regulations and demands from major customers and what's going on internationally, et cetera, et cetera. But the reason I wrote the article and wanted to speak with you today is because beyond writing an article, beyond just having a nice blurb on an organization's website, um, this is about how do we practically get it done, right? How do we get our people to actually do it? Everyone's busy, everyone. So, how do we drive change? How do we introduce something new? So, if we think sustainability is important, we believe that some of our customers, right, doesn't have to be everybody. Some of our customers want this information, or we want the data to be able to drive change, or whatever the reason is, right? Maybe it's a value of your company. We need data, and then ultimately, we need people to actually do something different.
Steve, you emphasize establishing baselines for metrics. I think in the article it mentions energy consumption and waste reduction. How does that work? How does that ensure accountability and drive real progress?
Well, ultimately, Jeff, what I want to talk about today is creating financial rewards, financial goals for various staff people in an organization. And anytime money is tied to it, the last thing we want to do is, and forgive my French, but piss off our people, right? If we give them an incentive and they think they hit it, but sort of the metrics, how we measure it, is kind of vague or wishy-washy. So we decide at the end we're not going to give them what they're expecting. Man, that is a great way to piss people off. So understanding the metrics, how we're going to measure the incentives so that everyone is treated fairly, people know whether they achieve their goals or don't. So that issue is incredibly important for any compensation package.
I think your French made the point and it wasn't too strong, so
Thank
all
you.
good
Thank
there.
you.
Let's talk about challenges to do this. Can you speak to some of the common challenges companies face when implementing a compensation linked sustainability goal program, and how can they overcome those challenges?
Well, thank you. Well, the reason we're doing this today, Jeff, is because most organizations do not tie compensation to sustainability goals. And that is exactly why we're having this discussion. Because if we really want an organization to move forward on their sustainability initiatives, then we have to create the right incentives for people to do the work. And the thing that I want to talk about today, and which is discussed, more in the article, is to provide those incentives to many people throughout the organization. So, for example, it's not just about did we hit our top line numbers or our profit numbers. It is how do we dig in and look at different things for different parts of the organization. So, for an operations person, how do we do simple things like let's set a goal for reducing waste. So we want to improve recycling, right? So we're going to reduce landfill waste, improve recycling. Well, why don't we give a goal to the operations people so that they have some skin in the game. So they actually know we're going to set a goal of reducing waste by 15%. We'll create a baseline of what we're currently doing now, and then we're going to measure it and actually be able to literally measure it and to give them $1,000 or a couple $1,000 or $500 or whatever it is, but to clearly give them, here's the goal, here's how we're going to measure it. And when I talk about a simple example like waste, it's not just for the operations people or the warehouse manager or the plant manager. What about including the purchasing manager? Because a lot of times, how we buy our products, if we can buy them in bulk, if we can buy it so that the vendor will take back the packaging, take back the pallets, take back the other materials. So to think broadly about how do we engage multiple people in the organization with simple shared goals that have financial implications for them, so the company sends a clear message that this is an important issue that we really want you to work on.
So you mentioned operations and waste reduction. There, it makes sense. Are you saying that every department in an organization could have some type of program like this? Thinking human resources, finance, some that aren't in the weeds doing the work.
Well, I'm pausing just a second because you asked me if every organization or every, you know, entity or, group within the organization should have these goals. And I'm not sure if everyone should. I'm
Okay,
not.
that's
But
fair.
yeah, but again, you should think about it, or the business owners should think about it. That's exactly the challenge I want to give to them, is to really think about these issues. You want your company to be more sustainable, then it's not just lip service or part of your mission statement or something on the website. How does it affect HR, right? Is there goals, for example, for improving retention of workers? Is there goals for them if they help reduce injuries, right? Because that ties into the type of products and training related stuff. Are there very specific goals that we can give HR, that we can give purchasing, that we can give operations? And of course, sales and marketing, right? We want
Mhm.
them to grow the product line. So all of them, distribution folks, the transportation, and how do we reduce the amount of fuel used per dollar of sales or, miles per gallon. There are all these opportunities that we can measure them. And by giving people shared goals with financial incentives, just like we would do for other things. That's how you're really going to drive sustainability into an organization.
Sounds like every organization needs a sustainability manager on their staff.
Um, I think for larger organizations, that's absolutely true. But, a lot of companies in our industry are entrepreneurial, small and medium-sized
Mhm.
businesses. So I don't really know if they could take on more overhead. Let's be honest, that's what it would be. Um, but instead, whoever is making those decisions just need to have it top of their mind when they're redoing compensation packages for the new year, to think about different metrics with some financial objectives that tie to sustainability. That's really the message I'm trying to share. It's not about hiring a seasoned professional to do sustainability stuff. And I'm not even plugging everyone to hire a consulting firm like me to help you with that. Okay. But it really is, let's understand that if we want things done, our employees, our staff do what they're incentivized and paid to do, right? So that's the message. And to think broadly. So it's not just sales and marketing, but how we can include these goals for finance. How do we include it for our hiring people? How do we include it for our training people? How do we include it for our purchasing people? How do we include it, on and on and on? Because if you really want your people to do it, then make sure it's built into their compensation package. And this isn't just true for our industry. This is something we're promoting to everybody, to large real estate investment trusts, to large corporations, to all organizations, that the missing link in all the sustainability stuff is our compensation models for senior executives. And whether it's in a big organization or in a small one where the senior executive's wearing lots of different hats or your staff's wearing lots of different hats, but think about the opportunities if you really want to get it done.
Good advice, Steve. So, for those watching this program, they've heard what you've said. Let's say they're on board, they want to make this happen. What kind of help, what kind of assistance can they get, such as from ISSA and the efforts that you're doing, you're engaging in with sustainability?
Well, great question, Jeff. And I think, frankly, the easiest thing is for them to join ISSA Sustainability Committee, where we're working on these issues and discussing these issues, and there's peers to share ideas about it. And we'll be providing more information with the committee and some of the materials we're putting together to really help make it easier, especially for ISSA small and medium-sized members to succeed at this thing we call sustainability.